because I think O'Hare Airport is supposedly the busiest in the world. During daylight hours in 1968 and 69, this was the busiest airport in the world.
In the 1960s and early 70s, Long Chen appeared on no maps. It was accessible only by air. Yet this clandestine stronghold was the second largest city in Laos.
It was the center of the American paramilitary operations in Laos. The air war, for all practical purposes, was fought out of Long Chen. You couldn't look any place without seeing an airplane. If you look up, down, sideways, it didn't matter.
Long Chen was built by the CIA as headquarters, airfield, infantry base camp, and refugee center for some 40,000 Hmong displaced by the fighting. For a warrior hungry for action and intrigue, there was no better place on earth to be.
It was every exotic character in the world, the Air America guys, the Continental guys, the CIA case officers, these huge tribes of indigenous people walking around in various costumes. I knew that I had found home, and it was the most exotic place in the world that was going to be my home.
Long Chen was also home to General Vang Pao, the CIA-backed leader of the Hmong.
He was the key to putting together the forces on the ground that the United States would support in order to fight the war.
Vang Pao led his Hmong followers with inspiration and fear.
He was a son of a bitch, but he was our son of a bitch. That's exactly what he was. He was brutal and tough and mean. You won't find many people say that, but that's the God's truth.
Today in the mountains surrounding Long Chen, a few of Vang Pao's Hmong followers are still hanging on, still fighting the communist Pathet Lao. There have been attacks against government installations and tour buses in the area. The Laotian government refers to the attackers only as bandits. Because these attacks are still happening around Long Chen, travel there will be dangerous. The government has declared the area off limits to foreigners. But the Ravens tour guide, Susath, has promised to take them to Long Chen anyway.
We going to special zone, which is not allowed foreigner to go there. And as you know a little bit about the difficulties, the safety of the areas, that's why they call special zone. They have a little bit activities of the guerrillas around there.
Susath has told the Ravens in private that he will need to ditch the communist minders in order to get the Ravens and the film crew into Long Chen. That won't be easy. With some uncertainty, the Ravens journey on, this time on the ground, under skies where they once flew and risked their lives on a daily basis.
Everybody in combat has a chance of getting killed. But the forward air controller's job was to go out there and find those places where they were going to shoot at you. A fighter pilot can conduct an airstrike in one pass. He's got a limited time over the target. And our job was to stay over the target.
Staying over the target meant drawing ground fire. The Ravens had the highest casualty rate of any Air Force unit during the Vietnam War. Out of nearly 200 Ravens, 23 never returned from Laos. Many Ravens are still coming to grips with the risks they took.
Sustained combat, over a period of time, wears away things that are unimportant. And the only thing left are the pure emotions that you have. And as a result, when you're happy, you're elated. You're absolutely ecstatic. When you're sad, you cry. You can't stop it. When you're angry, you could kill.
Mike Cavanaugh's journey through Laos brings him face to face with a place and time he's never been able to forget.
I remember this piece of real estate right here. Boy, it gives me chills down my spine. I maxed out the chart on the post-traumatic syndrome I had all those feelings I was carrying around in my chest because of this secrecy. You couldn't talk about it. You couldn't let it out. This whole thing here has got a vent on top. I remember bringing the fighters in. We got in there, and then all of a sudden, boom. We definitely need some work, you know. We need some psychological tune-up here, because this is nuts. You know, some of the stuff we did was absolutely nuts. Yellow smoke just belched out of here, and this thing burned for 2 days. We had a healthy disrespect for all authority. We hated everybody. Talk about angry young men. Plume a mile high of black smoke. The thing was full of gasoline, and it took 2 days for it to cook off. When I came home to my wife and kids, I was a stranger. I'd been gone for 5 years. Basically, I'd been missing for 5 years in the family. And so I lost the family. Thousands of tons of bombs and thousands of combat sorties, all those lives lost. Coming back here, I have learned that it didn't make any difference.
It is day 5 of the Ravens' expedition to Laos. Tomorrow they expect to arrive in Long Chen, the airbase and home they once shared with the Hmong. But Susoth has called an emergency meeting.
My sir, I have to explain you about the situation of the trip. The situation is changed.
He says there has been another attack with 4 people killed on the road the Ravens will travel. They must now decide whether to push on, despite the apparent risk and despite the government restrictions.
The situation seems like worst. The Lao military cannot get control on it. It's too dangerous and risky that we take the tour there.
Well, that's very unfortunate news.
We're alive this far. I'm not adverse to the danger part of it. And we made it this far.
We all knew there was a certain element of danger coming here. That's no big deal. But the thing is, we're exposing everyone else to satisfy ourselves.
If you really want to take a risk, I'll be there with you. But I think your war is over.
Reluctantly, the Ravens agree to give up their trip to Long Chen and their much-anticipated reunion with their friends there.
The purpose of this trip for me, or what I wanted to get out of this trip, I wanted to meet again with the Hmong. And I wanted to meet back at Long Chen. But they're not going to let us in there because of what's happening, because there's still fighting going on there.
Susoth proposes an alternative expedition to another Hmong village. But this trip may be even more dangerous in a different way. To get to the village, they will travel for 2 days over the mountains near Samnua, enemy headquarters during the war. Communist patriotism runs high in this region. Resentment over American bombing still runs deep. On the way, Susoth makes an unscheduled stop.
This temple got built in 1556 and then got destroyed in 1969.
Mike was here. We hit close to it, which I'm sad to say that maybe we destroyed some